everyone, and welcome to another episode of Pedagogy in Practice. In this episode, I'm going to be talking to you about accessible heading styles and how you can use design tools to help you set them up. So without further ado, let's get right into it. Okay, in order to get started talking about heading styles and design tools, I thought it might first be pertinent to look at a resource that we use that helps guide us through creating quality online courses. Now, another thing that I wanted to point out is I am talking about the OEI Course Design Rubric. As a matter of fact, Section D of the OEI Course Design Rubric is all about accessibility. And in fact, element D1 of Section D talks specifically about heading styles. So let's go ahead and take a look and see what it says. So element D1 says that heading styles are consistently used to aid navigation through the course when using assistive technology. Heading levels, meaning headings 1, heading 2, etc., are used in the correct order. And fonts, colors, and formats, bolds, italics, etc., are not used in lieu of heading styles. And of course, this needs to be present in everything through your course, from the actual Canvas course content that you're creating to the documents you have uploaded, such as MS Word files, PDFs, digital presentations, and spreadsheets. So what does all of this mean? Well, to start, it means that instead of just bolding a heading on your page, it needs to actually have the heading style applied to it. And I'm going to show you how to do that. But first, let's talk a little bit more about navigation and about the correct heading style order. So here's something that looks like a pretty standard page in Canvas, right? Or you might have something that says week 10 up at the top. And then, of course, lower down below, you're saying, okay, I have an assignment here. This is what the assignment is. And then you have readings for the week. And then you may even specify, okay, for Monday, please read this. Then maybe Wednesday, please read this, so on and so forth. But this is what this should look like when you apply heading styles. Or this is what it should look like, in the background when you apply heading styles. That top title should be a heading 1, right? That's basically telling assistive technology, for people that will be using assistive technology, that this is the topmost title on the page. Everything that comes below it will be nested underneath that main title. So that's the heading 1 right there. Now, when I was showing in that last example that we also had an area for assignments, the actual word assignment would be a heading 2 because it's still nested under the heading 1, but it is the next most prominent thing that I want to have read, right? And then, of course, the assignment link would likely be a hyperlink in my actual class, but for here, it's just listed as paragraph text, which is still important because it's still providing information to assistive technology, letting it know how to navigate the page. Now you'll notice that we actually have two heading 2s. Whether somebody decides to read what I have for readings first or assignments first really doesn't matter, right? They can choose which one they want to do, but those two headings should be at the same level because readings is not nested underneath the assignment. They are at the same level. Now you'll also notice that where I had a link to the assignment up under the second heading, right? Down below with heading 3 where I specified that this is a reading for Monday, Monday is actually going to have stuff nested underneath it, which means it needs to be a heading 3. And of course, then the reading itself would be paragraph text, or in all actuality, probably a hyperlink of some sort in my class. So when we're talking about using heading styles for navigation and in the correct order, it means this. Those of us that don't use assistive technologies can look at the page and decide where we want to go. In order to provide that same ability, that same affordance to people who are using assistive technologies, we have to set up the page so that they are able to do that using that technology. Meaning we need to make sure that the heading styles follow in sequential order, meaning I can't go from a heading 1 directly to a heading 3, right? In the structure of my page, it needs to go heading 1 to a heading 2, and then of course under heading 2, you can have paragraph text or things like that, but the next indentation would be a heading 3 if it's going to have further things nested underneath it. And by doing so, you're really helping establish the format of the page to help screen reading software navigate through that page so that someone who's using the technology can hop in and maybe they've already read the assignment, they can actually jump right next to the next heading 2 and get to the readings for that day. So I realize that this is all kind of abstract. Up next, let's go ahead and hop into Canvas and we'll take a look at setting it up, and then I'll show you how to do that with design tools. Okay, so setting up heading styles in Canvas is really quite easy. So here's a page that is pretty similar to the example that I showed you back on the presentation. But one thing I want you to notice is that notice when I come here, we're going to use this tool right here that usually is defaulted to say paragraph. And you'll notice that underneath that we have all of our heading styles here in Canvas. We have a heading 2, a heading 3, a heading 4, pre-formatted, and paragraph. Now I'm not going to cover every single one of these today, but I just wanted to let you know that that's where those are. Now, one thing you may notice that we do not have access to is a heading 1, the foremost heading on the page. That's because by default in Canvas, this field up here is classified as the heading 1, right? Because it's the topmost title on the page. Everything underneath it falls as a subset within that. So you'll notice that in this page, I have an introduction area where I'm providing an introduction to my students about week 10. I have an area that's going to be devoted to readings, and an area that's going to be devoted to the assignments for the week. So in order to get started, there's a couple things that I want to do. First, I'm going to highlight the introduction, and I'm going to make that a heading 2, right? That is the second most important area on the page that I want my students to read. So I'm setting up that navigation using the heading styles. Now, after they've read the introduction, the next would be readings. So I'm going to go ahead and just classify that as a heading 3. And because the assignments area is at the same level as the reading, I'm going to go ahead and highlight assignment and classify that as a heading 3 as well. Now, just to make the page accessible, I'm probably going to also highlight this. There's some things that I would need to change in terms of the formatting, which are covered in other videos and in other trainings. But one thing I want to do is I'm just going to go ahead and make that a bulleted list number, or a bulleted list, and I'm going to do the same thing with the assignment. And now I have a page that uses proper heading styles because we go from a heading 1 to a heading 2 to a heading 3, paragraph text, and then to another heading 3. Right? So everything's following in sequential order. And that's how you set it up using the basics of Canvas. Next, let me show you how design tools can help handle this for you. All right, so now that we're looking at this page is a basic, just formatted page using design tools. Now, if we look at it, if I come up here to week 10, right, we know that this title up here at the very top is the heading 1 by default because that's still part of that Canvas field. But now, just by using design tools, check this out. If I hop down here into this page and I click in the header, look at what it tells me. It tells me that that is a heading 2. Now, I didn't have to select that as a heading 2. By using design tools, it just knew to do that automatically. So it's formatted as a heading 2. If I scroll down the page and I come here to the next header, my readings area, notice that it changes to a heading 3. I didn't have to set that up. Once again, design tools just took care of it. If I come down to the next block, featuring assignments, that is also a heading 3. So design tools goes a great way to just handle that for you. So let's go ahead and take a look at how to do that using design tools. So I'm just going to hop over here to this other page that I have. It's just a blank page. And like always, in order to get started, I'm going to give it a title up here, which will be my header 1. And then I'm actually going to open up design tools up in the top right-hand corner. Once again, it's that rocket ship button. And of course, the academic technology at Bakersfield College, we offer a ton of design tools trainings. We offer design tools basic, design tools intermediate, design tools advanced. So pay attention to the upcoming workshops page under the professional development area in our website, and you can sign up for those if you'd like to learn any more about design tools. But now back to heading styles. So the very first thing that I need to do in order to start setting up the page is I need to select my theme. So I'm going to go to Create Edit Content. I'm going to navigate down to Choose a Theme. And down here you'll see all these little rectangles that give little previews of what the theme would look like when applied to the page. I personally know that I like flat sections too, so I'm going to go ahead and select flat sections too. And as soon as I do, it's going to give me that top title. And check this out, as soon as I applied that, it took the title from up ahead and plugged it right there. I can of course change that. But if I click on it, notice that it changes to heading 2. It just does that automatically, so I don't need to worry about doing that. Now, in order to add those sub areas, if I come back to Design Tools menu over in the right-hand corner, and I click that blue button, plus Add Content Blocks, and I say, okay, I would like an introduction area where I'm going to put the introduction, but now I'm going to add a reading area, and I'm also going to add an assignment area, and then I can close that. If I come to any of these other areas, these like in this heading here with readings, if I click that, it is a heading 3 automatically. And if I come down here to assignments, it is a heading 3 as well. So design tools is a really nice way to just implement those proper heading styles because it's built in when you're designing the pages in your course. I hope you found this video useful. I hope you can apply this to your own teaching practice and the development of your own courses. Please don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment on our videos. And that's all I have for you today. All right, see you next time. Bye.